of the bhakti practice. Now you can see because there was supposed to be somebody here recording, but since he's not there, I'm recording myself down in that little screen there. So I hope you don't mind that. Call it the core of the bhakti practice because it is really the most important thing that we can do in our practice of bhakti yoga. So again, show of hands, how many of you feel like you've begun the practice of bhakti yoga? Raise your hands. Started to become bhakti yogis. Now, others, you're here for the first time, so you're here to learn about what bhakti yoga is, I hope. Find out what it's all about. Okay. So I'm going to be presenting some of the core principles of bhakti yoga. And hopefully that will stimulate those who have not yet decided to practice it to begin their practice and to give you, as I said, the core of that practice. So, before we begin, we always invoke our spiritual master, his divine, the blessings of our spiritual master, his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, pictured on the right. And because we're going to be talking about Harinam and Japa, we're also invoking the blessings of the personalities depicted here on the left. In the middle is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 540 years ago approximately and propagated, he taught this Harinam. And he taught specifically, he asked us to perform the kirtan, which we just did just now, or the singing, as well as the chanting of Harinam. And we'll talk about what Harinam is in just a minute. Here he's accompanied by his associates, and we'll talk about that also later in the program. So, and I apologize, this screen has a little defect here in the middle, but I hope it won't disturb things too much. Bhakti yoga is sometimes called the yoga of love. Bhakti itself, the word bhakti, those of you who are coming here familiar, and if you just knew, you can understand that the term bhakti literally means devotion, love, loving devotion. So we just mentioned here that we've invoked the blessings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the several slides that are coming here are taken from his teaching, which I've recorded in a voluminous work called the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in the beginning, I'll just repeat his words. Sambandha abhideya prayojana nam 18 artha sarvasutre paryavasana. So here he's giving us that the ultimate goal is to progress from understanding one's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we call that Sambandha, to then progress into understanding what are the activities of the soul in that relationship, and to progress through those activities to reach the ultimate goal, which is to become overwhelmed and immersed and transformed into pure love. Love for the Supreme Divine Being. So these three, as he says here, these three subjects are explained in every aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, which is a very special Vedic text. And we don't have time to get into all these terminologies, but Vedic literally means knowledge, and it refers to the texts of the ancient texts of India, for they form the culmination of the entire Vedanta philosophy. So first of all is the Sambandha. In order to progress in bhakti, we begin with understanding who am I, and again, the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives us a direction. Jiver Surup Hoy. Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatashta Shakti, Bheda Bheda Prakash, Soyam Sakyana, Yaiche Agni Lachai, Swabhavika Krishnera Teen Prakar Shakti Hoy. So here Chaitanya gives us a concise answer to the question, who am I? Who am I? Ultimately, who am I? We could spend the entire rest of this evening going into all the permutations of identity that we all subscribe to, we're conditioned by. But if we reflect on the reality of who we actually are, then we have to come to the conclusion we're not our physical bodies, we're not the personalities that we have developed, we're not men and women, we're not old and young. Who are we though? We can say we're spirit souls, but that doesn't fully define us. To say I'm a spirit, I'm a soul, yes, that's the first step, to realize I'm not my body. And those of you who have been coming here have heard this again and again and again, and I hope that you've also come to appreciate it and realize it and feel it and understand it, because you cannot, it's so easy to understand in so many ways, but that doesn't really ultimately answer the next, well, if I'm not my body, then who really am I? This is the answer. I am a servant of God. That's Chaitanya's message. I, you, we are all simply by nature. Sarup, the word here is sarup. Sarup means one's actual nature. Sometimes it's described that you could say the sarup, the nature of sugar, is sweetness. So the nature of the living being is service to God. That's the actual nature. But it's been kind of suppressed by a desire to engage with the material world, which is expressed in this verse. Krishna bule se jiva nadi bhairmukh ataiva maiva tarideva sansara duk. Because we've forgotten this. We've forgotten who we are. Therefore, we're attracted by the material energy and we turn away from that supreme divine being that we have our eternal relationship with. And in this position, we suffer. So that's the sambandha. Then the abhideya, the activities. How do we turn back? How do we get free of this state of ignorance and realize who we are? So again, in the same literature, but it's quoted from another book. Atak Shri Krishna namadi nabave grayam indraye sevan mukhehi jivado swayam evaspuratiya. We can't approach God with our material senses, but this gives us a direction that if we use our senses to serve God, God will reveal himself. And of those senses, the first sense to use is our sense of speaking, vibrating with the tongue. So the word jiva is used here. We can also use that same sense to take prasadam. So today in this program we'll be doing both. Now, what do we vibrate? What do we use the tongue for? Again, Chaitanya reveals to us, Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Sudo Nityamukto Vinatvan Nama Namino. It's a little hard to read perhaps there, but here he says that the holy name of God, Krishna, is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself. Now this is the key to everything we're going to be talking about tonight. If you get just this one point, that when we say Krishna, Krishna, God, is present in that sound vibration. That is the foundation of what we're all talking about here tonight. Why we did the kirtan in the beginning, and why we're going to suggest you start to practice, if you haven't already done so, in Japa. So I'm just going to play a little bit from a course that I created on something called Chant Now. So let's hope it gets through here with sound. Yes.
You've come this far in the course, and so you have already had some experience of the power of the maha-mantra. But what gives it this power? Is it the specific combination of sounds, like a magical incantation, or is it something else? Some people think that all mantras are basically the same, just a tool or device to focus on while meditating. They say you could chant anything, Coca-Cola or apple pie, and by investing your energy into it, you would get the same result. Unfortunately, such claims are not backed by any real experience. On the other hand, people have been chanting the maha-mantra for hours, every day, year after year, over thousands and thousands of years, each time with increasing pleasure, and becoming self-realized by doing so. If it'll work the same with any sound, why has no one done it? If you don't agree, you can try the experiment yourself. Make up a mantra and chant it daily for a few weeks and see what happens. Then do the same thing with the Hare Krishna maha-mantra. There's more evidence from the musical scene. Musicians are constantly trying to write a song that people will want to listen to over and over again, getting fresh inspiration every time. But they all fail. Their songs fall off the charts. What is it about the maha-mantra that is so special? To begin, the words of the maha-mantra, Hare Krishna and Rama, are not ordinary and personal words or sounds. They are names, divine names, holy names, for the divine person, the Supreme Person. Now by name, I don't mean a title like God or the Divine or the Supreme. I mean a personal name, like Alice or Bob. Since the Supreme Being is ultimately the Supreme Person, then like all the persons we know, including ourselves, he must have a personal name. Of course, since he is unlimited, his names are unlimited. I'm saying he, but as I said before, God's female nature is the same quality. The main thing is the quality of God's names. Here in our material world, names and things are different. If you are somewhere else, I might get a feeling of you by calling out your name, but you are not actually present with me. But when we vibrate Krishna's name, or just think it, Krishna, the Supreme Person, is fully present, even if we can't fully appreciate his presence. In our limited experience, everything we perceive is relative to our current circumstances, which are always changing. But when we experience the power of the maha-mantra, we are connecting with an absolute reality which is independent of the limits of time and space. In this reality, the name and the named are the same. This is the secret to the power of the maha-mantra. By vibrating the divine names of God, we are directly connecting with them. This is the ultimate goal of yoga, connecting with the divine. Material sounds cause you to become more materially absorbed. Spiritual sound pulls you out of the material consciousness and awakens your original dormant spiritual consciousness. Though we channel this sound through our own physical bodies, it is actually coming from the eternal spiritual existence beyond our material senses, passes through our physical ear and reaches the inner ear of the soul. When heard or sung with attentiveness and sincerity, the divine names begin to wipe the dust from the mirror of your heart, until you can finally see yourself again, and Krishna.
So, you got a little introduction about the quality, the nature of the holy name. So, now we're going to move into japa. There's two ways that in Bhakti Yoga that we connect with Krishna through his names. The first was the way that we experienced this morning, the beginning of this session. We did kirtan, right? So one of the devotees here led us with a melody, and she sang, and we responded, and back and forth we had the experience of singing and hearing the names. That's kirtan. We call that kirtan or sankirtan when it comes together. Here, Prabhupada describes it, the maha-mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, when uttered very softly. Okay, so if we do the same thing with the same mantra, but we utter it softly for our own hearing, that's called japa. So now you know what japa is, if you didn't know already. Japa is the soft uttering. And when we chant it loudly to be heard with others, that's kirtan. So why should we do japa? I like to quote this particular verse. I think it really gives us a good sense of the purpose of japa. Japa is something that we can do, first of all, on our own. I mean, kirtan, we have to come together and we have to, well, maybe be a little musical, but it's a group effort. Japa is a personal effort. And if it's done, it's just like this verse here describes. It's like medicine. When you take medicine, if you have a disease, then you're prescribed some medicine and usually a diet as well. And if you follow the medicine and the diet regularly, right? The prescription generally is, okay, every day take this one in the morning, this one in the evening, and so on. By that regularity, you can gradually get cured. So this particular verse describes that we are all suffering, in one sense, from a disease like jaundice. Anyone here has had jaundice? You've had it. I've had it. We've lived in India, my wife and I. And so it's pretty hard to avoid. Now it's not so bad, but when you in the early 70s, the 70s and 80s, it was pretty difficult to avoid. So in that disease, one of the characteristics is that things that are sweet taste bitter. So this particular verse describes it. It makes the analogy that although the names of God himself is the sweetest divine being that can be, and yet because we're in a diseased state, we don't taste this mantra fully. We need to, what's the solution? Just like in jaundice, this sugar is bitter, but sugar cures. It helps the kidneys and so on to regenerate. So similarly, by chanting regularly, and the words here are, I highlighted, adarat anudinam. Anudinam means daily, regularly, and adarat means with care and attention. Then that same thing which is now not so sweet to us becomes sweeter and sweeter. So japa is the anudinam. Japa is the way to make our connection with Krishna through his holy names a daily affair. Now, Prabhupada gave us a simple formula for how to practice japa. And if you leave here, those of you who are already practicing japa, I'm hoping that you can just take this formula and say, okay, this is it. This is how I succeed in japa. But we're going to get into a few more things too. Just try to hear yourself chant sincerely. So there's a few elements to this. This was Srila Prabhupada would speak like this quite often, When people ask, well, how do I do this? My mind is here and there, because japa is a form of meditation. I didn't focus on that in the beginning. How many of you are meditating in some other way right now, who don't practice japa, but do some other form? You have a meditation practice, a silent meditation? You have a mantra, or just silent, breath and so on? Okay. So japa is a form of meditation. But it's a meditation that has a very, very specific goal, which is to awaken our connection with God. The practice is done simply. We sit, we chant, and we're going to do this. I'm just leading up to having a japa session with all of you as this evening. And what we're going to try to do is just chant and hear. And as it said here, hear ourselves chant sincerely. We should try to give something of our heart to the chanting. Okay. So here's this is another video about giving our hearts into the chanting.
The last lesson in this how section is the most important. What should be your attitude in your mantra meditation sessions? Your mood, attitude, or mentality is the most important key to success in Bhakti Yoga. It is both how you nurture your practice as well as the symptom or fruit of your practice. Chanting is not meant to be a mechanical process. It must be accompanied with the appropriate feelings, performed for the right purpose, and with proper consciousness. The attitude of the Bhakti Yogi is encapsulated in the Sanskrit term sadhana, surrender. In the Gita, Sri Krishna's final instruction is simply Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, surrender to me alone. The word surrender means to yield to the power or possession of another. It normally means that there has been a competition for resources, land, or some kind of possession, and that one party has lost. Part of the reluctant acceptance of their loss is that the losing party abandons their claim, their power, and disengages from the conflict completely. But surrender for the soul is an entirely spiritual affair. It means to finally comprehend that the struggle for enjoyment in the world of matter is a lost cause, and a new path must be followed. It means to accept that I have a relationship with God as His servant, and if I try to take His position as master of material energy and ignore Him, I'll simply be frustrated. If not today, then at the death of my body. Unlike a conquering opponent, God does not force the soul into submission. His goal is that we love Him, and love, by definition, cannot be forced. Our surrender is born not out of defeat, but out of victory over our ties to illusion, materialism, and negative thought. Srila Prabhupada explains that when we chant the maha-mantra, we should feel like a child crying out for its mother. The surrender of the soul to the Supreme Soul is like a child embracing the shelter of its mother's arms. Another comparison is to how a small kitten totally surrenders to her mother's mouth and is carried everywhere. Even though the mother's teeth could crush her, the kitten feels safe. Krishna also carries his devotees like this. When we chant, the more we can give ourselves to simply hearing, surrendering all other plans for happiness in material things, the more we receive the divine light of the Supreme, dispelling all darkness. Here are some of the key elements to incorporate in your chanting that can help you on this path of surrender. Prayer. Remember that the maha-mantra is a prayer. Remember the meaning of the prayer and offer it in a prayerful mood, a communication between you and God, a very personal experience. Service. Chanting is an intimate way to serve the divine by receiving him in the sound of his names with love and attention. Gratitude. Krishna reveals himself to us in his names out of his love, his grace, and kindness. Remember this with gratitude. Faithfulness. Cultivate your faith in the divine names. Put your trust in them to fulfill your innermost desire for love. Patience. Be patient and go on. It may take a lot of practice before you get better at entering into deep meditation through chanting and opening the doors fully to the divine experience. We are eternal, so there is no need to panic. Determination. Never become discouraged. Always continue with determination, knowing that success is ultimately guaranteed. As you prepare to begin your daily meditation with the maha-mantra, it can help to say some prayers out loud to express the attitude and mood of surrender with which you approach the divine names. There is never any loss in surrender to the divine. Hare Krishna.
So, to encapsulate that, Prabhupada, this, what, like she was saying, is telling us that when we chant, we should chant like a child crying for the mother. And another way he expressed it is that chanting is a call, because the Sanskrit itself is in what it's called the vocative form. So Hare, Krishna, Rama, this is the vocative form of these words, calling out. Oh, Hara, which refers to the female Radha energy of Krishna. Oh, Krishna, oh, Rama. So it's a calling out. And the calling out for what? What are we calling for? And the prayer is to call out to be engaged in service. That's the ultimate meaning. Another aspect of approaching the chanting is humility. We talked a little bit in the beginning about how small we are. Chaitanya gave us this one verse. He said you should take this particular verse and string it around your neck as a way to invoke your proper mood in chanting, to be thinking yourself humble, even like the grass, and tolerant, not expecting honor, but giving honor to everyone. And that way we can always chant. So, to sum up, in the practice of Nama Kirtan and Japa, we have three elements. We have the philosophy, which we haven't gotten into very deeply here. We don't have much time to really get into the philosophical nuances of the holy name of God. We talked a little bit about the mood and attitudes, but there's also some practices. There's some techniques that practitioners have offered us. We're going to get a little bit into those practices, those techniques, before we begin our japa session. The first one is posture, sitting upright, sitting spine erect, and so on. That's the first thing. So let's get ready in that way. Let's get ourselves seated nicely. If you ever want to experiment, you can see. Try chanting with your spine erect, and then try chanting lying, like this. And it's completely different. As you probably in your meditation, you've seen that too. To pronounce clear pronunciation, not mumbling, going so fast just to get it done or something. That won't work. And of course, prayer, the attitude, the mood that we bring to it. There's always a time and place for everything. Generally speaking, for japa, the morning, at least when you're well rested, should be there. And morning is very important. And you should try to get a sacred space, a place in your home or just that you go to, and that's the place that you do your japa. Now, and it shouldn't be in front of a television, and it shouldn't be, with your cell phone next to you and checking your messages or whatever. But something where you leave the cell phone, you leave the TV, you leave everything, you go there, and this is all you do. This is what you do. I think, do you have on your feedback there the little button? It says, when I chant, I chant. Yeah. So anyone who's practiced meditation knows that this is when you go to meditate, you go to meditate. You don't go to do something else. And there's a few other little tools and tips. One is that using a japa mala. We're going to do that today because, as we said, this is a practice, and we want to get into doing something regular. It's a prescription. Now, how many malas you do or how many mantras you do, that we can discuss. That depends on your readiness and other things. When you begin your japa, you set your intention. I'm here to chant. I'm not here to think about something else. And you start with some mindfulness. You start with just being present, being mindful, looking around the room, just hearing the sounds, just being mindful of where you are and unplugging from everything else. Invoking the blessings, we're going to do that before we begin, of the Pancharatna is one of the key elements in our practice. We're going to get to that next. And one of the things that we've learned as we've gone on doing this for 50 some years, a little technique is to try to just focus on one mantra at a time. And to begin with, focus on the first word of the mantra, Hare. And of course, try to bring some feeling into it. And you can use your breathing to support your flow. Sometimes what I do is I breathe in and I actually, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. In my mind, I chant and then Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and I let it flow out. So the breathing can help you in your flow of meditation. So just before we start, let's learn this, or at least repeat it with us. This is a mantra that the members of the Japa practitioners all over the world use to invoke the blessings of Chaitanya. In the beginning, we mentioned how Chaitanya, he is the personality of Godhead. He is Krishna himself, and he has taught us this Harinam. So let's just try to repeat this. I hope you can see it, but I'll do it one word at a time. Jai. Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Shri Krishna Chaitanya. That's the personality in the middle. Prabhu Nityananda. Prabhu Nityananda. That's the personality to his right. Shri Advaita. Shri Advaita. He's the next personality on his Nityananda's right. Gadadhar. Gadadhar. He's on Chaitanya's left. Srivasadi. Srivasadi. So then on Gadadhar's left is Srivas. Gora Bhaktavrinda. So the Gora Bhaktavrinda are all the rest of the followers of Chaitanya, the devotees headed by Srivas. So these 5 personalities embody bhakti. And there's another mantra that we use to signify how they all embody and give us bhakti. I'm just going to play a little bit. This is how we're going to start, okay? This is a meditation, a guided meditation video that, by the way, I didn't mention in the beginning, but I think you saw here, chantnow.com. That's my website that we teach chanting, and we'll talk about that a little later. But there we have a number of guided meditations, and this one is a sort of getting started guided meditation. So we'll play that, and I won't play it all the way through. I'll stop it. But let us, before we do that, we're going to distribute Japa Malas. All right? Okay. So how many of you already have your own Mala? We have, I hope we have enough. We may not have enough. If you don't have one, and if you don't have, there are other ways to count. Which I'm going to teach you. Well, who are going to be the lucky two? Who hasn't done this before? Okay. Who else? Oops, sorry. Who else has not done this before?
He hasn't.
Oh. Okay, well, I'm going to teach.
You could do it this time. I've done this before.
You have done it before. Here you go. Okay, so the mala helps us to count, and it also helps us to focus, and it gives us something to do with our fingers. And you can see that it's a string of 108 beads, right? This bead here we call the head bead or Krishna bead. It's right here. We don't use this for chanting. It's our marker. And rather we start on the bead next to it. Either generally they go from small to large. You can start from the small one or the large one. I generally start from the small one. Some people start from the large one. And we use each bead to chant a mantra. So let's all do one. Okay. Now I'm going to give you, those who don't have beads, there's another way to count with your fingers. Okay? So quickly, you start here. This is the what do they call that? That's the ring finger. Okay. So the second joint, I guess you call that. You start the second one, and then you go down. Here's one, then you proceed down, and you go to all the joints. Okay, so there's 3 times 4 is 12. So there's 12 joints, and 12 times 9 is 108. Okay, so you can use the joints of your fingers to count. It's 12 finger joints, and 9 times it's 108, which is the number of beads here. Okay, and generally it's done like that. You start with the here and just keep going, and then make a circle around until you come back to that. Okay, so we're going to start in a minute. We're going to get ready. You've got your beads, you've got them. Try to keep them from going on the floor. They're helping you in a sacred mission. So keep them close. Some devotees will actually keep them right there with their heart. Okay. And to get us ready, I'm just going to offer you this this meditation, which you might want to use if you start this. If you haven't been doing it already, you could maybe use this. Okay? So let's start it.
Please sit comfortably with your spine tall yet relaxed. Notice your breath coming in and out. Feel the breath coming in and feel the breath going out. Gradually close your eyes. Feel the breath coming in and feel the breath going out. Coming in and going out. Coming in and going out. Now let's begin meditating on the maha-mantra. You will hear the sound of the mantra in the background, and you can chant along with it. If you have chanting beads, you can finger them as well. Remember, you just need to chant and listen. Let any other thoughts simply come and go. Tell yourself this is your time to just be with the mantra. One more breath and we begin.
Now we're going to chant along for a little while. And we're going to do it on our own. So try chanting along with us.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Move the bead each time.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare.
Now, just a minute, we're going to continue, but now without the background. So now it's you. Chant at your own pace, chant at your own volume, and just try to hear. You can close your eyes, you can keep them open. If you keep them open, then try to just let them relax, not look at anything, but just relaxed. And just try to hear each word, one mantra at a time, beginning Hare. We'll chant for another 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll conclude. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna. What's next? We hope that some of you are already having a daily practice, and if those of you are new, would like to start a daily practice, we have kits, Japa kits, somewhere here, that you can get to take home with you. We have a course. We have at chantnow.com, and we're going to be having more classes and courses on some of the deeper aspects of how to be successful in chanting. We didn't have time to get into, as I said, deeper philosophical principles that are around the success in chanting. So again, check it out, chantnow.com, and we'll end here and ask for questions and feedback on today's introduction to Japa Meditation. Yes?
We have a silent meditation, even with certain given mantras that we have to practice because of whatever type of meditation we were given upon initiation years ago. Whatever. The silent process is beautiful. It can get us like really deep in there. Is it more powerful in the silent process than the ordering of the sound vibration on one end or the other? How does that compare one to the other? What is the deeper benefit of each one of them?
Maha-mantra chanting. The power of maha-mantra chanting comes from the heart. It doesn't come from the mind. It's not the goal of maha-mantra chanting and the success of maha-mantra chanting. Yes, you want the thoughts to go away. You want your consciousness to be fully absorbed, but you want it to be absorbed with a feeling of love and appreciation and gratitude. And we sometimes chant from the heart, not from the lips. So generally we find that unless you're very experienced, if you're very well developed, if you try chanting mentally, you kind of don't get the full energy of your heart and your body by engaging in using your lips and your tongue and using your fingers and so on, and sitting, and you're putting more of your energy into the mantra. But those who are very advanced, they can chant in their minds and have that same experience. So really you have to judge and see, in your own chanting, is this enhancing my relationship with Krishna in his name, or is it giving me a good feeling? Because meditation, other forms of meditation, the goal is more de-stressing and just getting into a peaceful space and so on and so forth, which is all wonderful and good. But maha-mantra chanting is bhakti yoga, and our goal is beyond that, to develop a relationship with God. So that's what I would say.
Sometimes I'm on the bicycle. Coming here, it was so hot. I mean, I'm telling you, I've never felt so overwhelmed. Getting off the bicycle, I sat down. I was like, I'm going to die. It was so intense. But when I'm on the bicycle, sometimes I chant. I chant out loud. I'm going across the Brooklyn Bridge, and I am totally ridiculously loud chanting, which is cool for me. I feel super happy about that. But there's moments in which I feel it physically, the load of work that I'm
doing. Oh
yes. I want to mentally at least have that vibration going on.
Well, what to speak of? I've had experience. I've had laryngitis, and you can't. There's no voice there. So what are you going to do? You chant in the mind. Even in kirtan, I've done this I think it was Rath Yatra, the day after Rath Yatra, I still had some laryngitis. I couldn't I usually can chant loudly. So I just listened to everybody else chanting. And just that was my voice. My voice was their voice. So, you can, yes, there's certainly, the maha-mantra is not constrained. Krishna's names are not constrained by material sound vibration. They're transcendental, so they can exist they can manifest in thought, they can manifest in sound. And yes?
So, if you using your fingers or the beads, right, your mind is being diverted also to the finger or the beads. Isn't the purpose of meditation to focus on God and not so important 108 times or 5 minutes or 120 times? I mean, there's no magic number, so why divert the mind between doing two things? I'm doing meditation in my head. Why make my fingers move?
Well, if you practice using the mala and or your fingers properly, then it becomes, it's not a mental, how you should say, you don't have to think about it. It's automatic, and it goes along, and it actually helps you to pay attention. Now I find, I'm just telling myself, that if I finger the beads like this, like that, I find it's like nervous activity, and it gets me a little less focused. But if I just move it one to the next, and you say, well, why count? Why should I count my mantras? Counting my mantras has two benefits. One is that it brings us into a commitment of service. Chanting mantras, the maha-mantra, is not just for us. I mean, why are we chanting? We're chanting this mantra for Krishna. It's an offering to Krishna. We're offering his name to him. And sometimes it's, it's all God. What can we offer God? He's everything. But it's the act of offering, the act of giving what energy we have, giving it to him. So by setting ourselves a daily number, it gives us a sense of a commitment. We're going to make this offering every day. Secondly, using the mala, at least, and can help us to focus. It doesn't have to be a distraction. When you're practicing it doesn't have to be. It can actually be an aid to focusing. And there's a last thing that we use the mala for. We generally like to use malas that are made from the wood of the sacred tulsi. And thus we not only get the benefit of the other benefits I described, but we get some blessing from Tulsi Devi, the sacred tree of Tulsi, which would be too much to explain all of that, what that all means. But so there's a number of ways. And lastly, we count and we chant because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked us to do this. He taught japa. He taught us japa. And when he first introduced japa to the people of Navadvip where he lived, he said, do this regularly. Do it daily. It's like a prescription. It's like a medicine. You have a certain medicine, you take it and you do it daily. Now, in our practice, we strive to a level of commitment, a basic level of 16 malas a day. Now that's 2 hours of meditation, approximately, or maybe 3 even. depending on how, your tongue and mind work. But we recommend, if you're just getting started, to start with 1 mala and then go to 4 and gradually increase. But that's my answer to your question. I hope it's somewhat satisfactory.
I was just wondering, 108, a sacred number?
Yes, 108 is considered to have some mystical sacred power. I don't have full background on that, but you'll see it appears very often in the Vedic literature. And exactly, there's 108 Upanishads, there's 108 this, 108 that. Yes, yes.
Where do the Vedas come from? Meaning, like, I guess, who recorded it and what exactly were they recording? Where does the knowledge come?
Okay, so first of all, can we turn the air conditioner? It's a little stuffy in here now. Can we turn the AC on? Who knows how to do that? Anyone here from the? There's Connor. We live in what we think to be a very old universe. It's not actually very old. In the span of eternal time, it's only a few trillion. But the Vedas say that they came from Krishna. That in the beginning of time, that the first created being who was to be the engineer of all other creation was without a guidebook, without a manual. He didn't know how to do what he needed to do. So he searched, and then finally he meditated. And when he meditated, he became connected with Krishna. And Krishna began to impart the Veda into his heart. So that's the origin of the Veda.
Who was this person?
Brahma. Brahma is that first created being. Teje Brahma Hridaya Adi Kaveye. The first verse of the Bhagavatam describes this. Brahma in turn instructed his son Narad. There's various lines through which the Vedas have been transmitted. The Vedas have also been expanded. So what Brahma received was like the DNA. It was the core DNA in which everything else was then built out. So the Veda has expanded, and now we have the from that original Rig Veda. It is expanded into 4 Vedas, and then into Upanishads, into Puranas, into various other literatures. But it starts with Krishna to Brahma. So, I think we're going to do some more kirtan fairly soon. I don't know who. I should do it, or who should, some. But if there's any more questions about, first of all, let me get some feedback here, because here I am. I don't know what did I do anything? Was anything meaningful? I don't know. You put some work into something and you think, well, this sounds good to me, but did it sound good to you? So some feedback, particularly you. Did you learn something? You're here for the first time. Was it meaningful? Yeah? Okay. Well, after this, by the way, we're going to have a meal, a really delicious meal, and we'll be sitting around. We can discuss more and ask questions, answer questions. Who else was here for the first? Have you chanted before? No. So what was your experience?
Well, I think it was probably a different experience than if I started doing this alone, being in the room with everyone chanting like in their own, like to themselves. I think it was, it's hard to describe. Like, I think it both took me out of the meditation, but also like got me into it more in its own way, where by hearing other people doing it, I was able to take my time to get into my own thing.
Yeah. That's interesting, because that is one of the challenges that is when if you chant. We here in the ashram here, we get together in the morning for our japa meditation, and we gather in the temple room upstairs, and we do space out mostly. I mean, in the in a physical way, we so that we're not just right next to each other mostly. But yes, you're trying to get into your own meditation, and then someone else is here, and especially if they're too loud, then it gets difficult. But those of you, so is this something you feel like you might try on your own? Okay, good. How about you?
I think it would be easier alone because I was getting distracted. Some people are loud and some people are in a different
Yes.
cadence.
It can be easier. Yeah. Until you're practiced.
I was slow and others were fast, and that's kind of was not meditative experience.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is not the this japa meditation is if somebody said, I just want to learn some meditation, I just want some meditation, I would tell them, well, yeah, meditate on your breath or do something like that. But what do you get from that? You'll get some meditation benefits, but you won't get Krishna. We're here to offer you a meditation that will give you all the other benefits. It'll give you if you do it properly, you'll get the same benefits that you get from silent meditation and meditating on your breath, etc., etc. But you get something so much more. You get spiritual awakening of Krishna consciousness of yourself in connection with Krishna. That's what we're offering. Anyone else? Feedback? Yes.
In regards to what Jim mentioned, what you were mentioning, it's like 3 months ago there was a retreat for the Krishna house in New Vrindavan, which was fabulous. There was a moment in the morning, I think it was a Saturday morning, if I'm not wrong. There's a very early meditation, right? So I had some family member passed away in Ireland, and I had to do some calls early in the morning. I still got myself to the temple around like 5:40 a.m. in the morning. But when it got to that moment where everybody sat down to practice the mantra, everybody together, I was feeling like, oh my God. At the same time, everything right now, right here, it was like, whoa! But where it brought me to, it was, okay, what am I focusing myself on? What am I really paying attention to, number one? And number two, this is also a practice that I am meant to do myself, even though it is collective, it is precise moment. And it actually, I'm not going to use the word forced me. It didn't force me. It put me on the spot right there to like bring my attention totally right in here and truly focus on the mantra. And I got into a place where I was like, wow, this is so interesting. Because now that I'm getting into this space, somehow the people that are around me, somehow it's like we synchronize with each other, and then it expanded throughout the room. It was the most beautiful thing that I've experienced in a very long time. It was like wild. I got up from the practice like bust so hard, so strong. And I'm like, okay, good. I get now why they practice together in the morning, and whatever is happening here is just like powerful. So I don't know if that helps out in a certain way, but it's very powerful. So just try it.
We invite you to come.
Yeah.
We're here doing this from around 5 o'clock in the morning till 7:30. So come and see. Okay. So there'll be more time while we eat to entertain other questions. I do hope that you will visit our website. It's free. All our courses are free. We do appreciate donations, but it's not required. And please check it out. Chatnow.com. Here. This is. Who would like one of these? This has got the little QR code on it. You have one? Here. All right, so you're going to lead us in Kirtan?
Yes. Thank you so much, Pancharatna. Let's give him a big round of applause. Now we have a special guest, Adikarta Prabhu, who will lead us in a Kirtan. So we can all stand up and put our mats this side.
And the beads you can, yes. If you want to keep the beads, then would you like to keep them? So hold on, and then hold on. Would you like to get a set of beads yourself?
We can all stand up, put our mats this side. Ready to keep them. So by now everybody knows the mantra, right?
They better.
You heard the mantra? You never heard the mantra, Krishna. Your name's in the mantra, you know that? So everybody repeat after me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Hare